Pirtle here from ProPhysique.com. Welcome to my finance, fitness, positivity podcast, Phil. You, as I just mentioned, you're a pretty big. You had a big impact on my life last year. I can talk about that a little bit if you want me to, but also I know fitness is a pretty big journey for you, and you're somewhat of a coach and mentor to a bunch of people, right?
Oh, thanks, man. Happy to be here. Really, it's an honor to be on this. And yeah, to say fitness is my life would be a fair summary of a description for me. So yeah, I've been coaching for Pro Physique for going on 4 years now. Been a personal trainer since 2008, and this is truly what gets me out of bed in the morning. I probably have to say my wife and kids, but this is the next thing besides that gets me out of bed.
Yeah, I guess I could say that too. Well, what's interesting, you know a little about me because you've been my personal trainer, but just to kind of clarify how this all happened. So interestingly enough, this has been my journey. I've always been into fitness, played hockey up through college, even a little bit afterwards, and so I've always worked out. And then one thing that I noticed as I was hitting my mid to late 20s, I was continuing to work out, but I was continuing to put on the pounds. Now, it was also at a time where I was living in Hollywood and going out and having some fun with the nightlife and not really eating the best. I found somebody who was a vegan at the time, and he told me it was my diet. So I decided to go vegan for a little bit. And in like 30 days, I dropped just a crazy amount of weight. So I was like, okay, diet definitely has something to do with it. But nice. Since then, I'd always been struggling on how do I keep the weight off? I've always looked fit. People could tell that I at least work out, but then the dad bod with the stomach and all that fun stuff.
What's the expression? Like definitely lifts weights, but likes donuts or something like that.
curls six pack, in the evening.
So that's that was with the 40-ounce curls, man. Each sip, it gets lighter every rep.
It does. It's amazing. Just more reps you do, the stronger you become. But I got into this is about a year and a half ago, I want to say, maybe 2 years. I started thinking, because I kept seeing stuff about macronutrients, and I wanted to educate myself on it. And that's where I ran into Paul online on YouTube and started watching his videos. And he was talking about just walking and dropping weight. And I used the macro calendar on Pro Physique. It got me to a point. So like, I'm just going to preface this, like, and I'm big on this when it comes to finances too. It's great. You can do so much on your own, but at some point you should get a coach. And I got to that point. I was with my fitness. I was like, okay, I'm lifting good. I'm starting to track some macros. I'm using some of these programs that Paul was talking about on his YouTube channel. And I go, I'm just going to go ahead and submit and see if I can get a coach. And when I got you, and you did these little magician tricks that I don't know how you did it, but man, it was the best shape of my life. And I have a newborn son, I think, today to thank you for it. So maybe I should have named him Phil and not Christian.
No, man. Really, thank you for all the kind words. Like it really means a lot. Like I like waking up and knowing that I'm making a positive impact in people's lives. And to hear these words, man, I mean, it's been a little while since we connected, but it's exciting that we're getting things rolling again. I'm just absolutely pumped because yeah, a lot of people run through kind of the same start to reaching a coach point that you just ran, right? Like, hey, whenever we're younger and we grow up and we're super active, we're playing sports, we have some type of physical education component in school, it's a lot easier to stay in shape. Plus the joys of being a teenager, right? We can eat almost anything that we want and never gain a pound. It's like, okay, you have that expectation from a young age and you start thinking you're an adult, and then you get through college and life kind of starts to happen and the partying starts to catch up with you. And yeah, you're still doing something to lift weights, to exercise, but the saying is very true. You can't out-train a bad diet, no matter how hard you're hitting it. If you're just slamming pizzas and double cheeseburgers all day long, like you're still 17 years old, you can do as much time on the treadmill as you want. You can do as many reps, you can do as many pull-ups, push-ups, but the amount of calories that we actually burn during exercise is substantially less than what most people think. And it's a lot less than what a lot of these machines will say. So like, let's say somebody has like a Fitbit, and I'm guilty of it too, right? Like Fitbit, Apple Watch, whatever. it'll calculate out like, oh, you just burned 700 calories in an hour. It's like, well, that's not actually an accurate way to assess that. Like if we did a VO2 max output test in like an exercise science lab, you're going to find that like you probably burned 200, 250 tops from lifting weights, from doing a little cardio. So a lot of people reach that point like late 20s, early 30s, life starts happening. We start having kids, and it's like you just wake up one day and go, man, I got to do something. I've got to kind of cut some of the fluff out of life. And they start seeing some progress, they start seeing some results. But for some people, some results are good enough. For others, it's, hey, I don't want good enough. I want that next level. I want the chiseled back for a lot of guys, or six-pack abs, or detailed shoulders, whatever it is. And anything good that's worth having typically takes a little bit more work, a little bit more effort. And that's whenever people reach out and they find a coach, and whenever you're with someone that they're listening to you and they care about your well-being and they care about your goals. Like I tailored your program around your home gym. They detail everything, and it's all right. This is someone's preferences. Like, how do I tweak your macros for what you like? Right? It's kind of like that Venn diagram. You got one side of like, what do you like as the individual, and the other side of, well, what does the evidence show as optimal? And that's a lot of the stuff that I was able to do with you. And the biggest component comes down to, how do you end up executing the play? Like, you're the athlete in the whole equation of things. I'm,
Right.
as I've said before, I'm just the bald guy on the sidelines with the clipboard going, hey, this is the play that we should be running based on the defense we're up against and based on your skill set.
Yeah. I remember, one day you're like, hey, we're going to add 15 minutes cardio later in the day, or we're going to tweak your fat grams by 5 and tweak your carbs by 5, or we're going to do a refeed day. All these things, like, I'd been hearing about, but haven't really understood the execution. And I'm not trying to tie this into finance too much, but it's like, same thing goes on in our world with financial planning. It's like we have to do these tweaks for clients and their portfolios and things of that nature. But tell me a little bit about how you got started with Pro Physique and Paul, and what led you to be, the fitness wizard that you are today. And I'm going to keep calling you a fitness wizard because honestly, like, again, and this is a shameless plug for you and for what you're doing. I honestly had never gotten into shape like that way, where, I've tried keto, I've tried being full vegan, I've tried being full vegetarian, I've tried all these other diets, and I'm still a vegetarian today just because that's more of a lifestyle that I've chosen. But, flexible dieting, the way you guys talk about it. I was eating like this almond butter stuff from American almond butter or nut butter, whatever that company is.
Yeah, American nut butter. Love them.
Man, and I'm buying all these crazy things. And my wife, Christina, she's like, "Are you allowed to eat that? What's Phil going to say?" I go, "No, this is part of what I'm sitting there eating, like spoonfuls of this nut butter, and it's like amazingly good, right? Like I'm eating all this stuff, that you wouldn't normally think when somebody's dieting, and then every week we're doing the measurements, we're taking the photos, and you're like, it's happening. So how'd you get started, Mr. Wizard, into Pro Physique and where you're at today?
So first of all, I love that you're calling me a wizard, because I am very much a Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter fanatic. So
The beard does it, right?
Dude, you should have seen it before kids. Like my beard was way down here. It was like Hagrid looking, or Gandalf. And then little tiny hands, as I'm sure you know now, like whatever they grab on, they grab and they do not let go. So that was
That's
why
right.
But yeah, so my whole fitness journey actually goes back to whenever I was 16 years old. All throughout my life, like growing up, I was always just naturally very strong. Like my parents tell everyone, I learned how to walk at 8 months by pushing the couch across the living room on carpet. So like 8 months old, already pretty strong, like played sports, a lot of football growing up. I was always offensive lineman, like just, hey, where do you need a strong person? That was me. But I also didn't really grow up in a family that knew much about nutrition. Like on my mom's side, I'm like 4th generation Floridian. So it's a lot of like Southern cooking, fried catfish, grits. Like that's the type of stuff my mom grew up cooking. My dad is Puerto Rican, so it's a lot of rice. It's a lot of, fattier cuts of meat. It's a lot of beans. It's a lot of just having food all around. So nothing really that you would look at and go, okay, that's kind of low fat, high protein, decent amount of fiber in it. So I put on a lot of weight as a kid. And by the time I was 16, I was over 330 pounds. And that was on my 16th birthday. Like I stepped on the bathroom scale and it just read 888.8. And I was like, what the hell? And I look down and I see the sticker and it says maximum weight limit 330 pounds.
Can I
So like
ask
at
you a quick
16,
question?
yeah.
So when I tell you I'm upset where I'm at, do you just laugh at me at this point?
No, man, because it's all about perspective. It's all about individual. Like I've
But
that's the great.
that's amazing though, from where you are today, from where you've been, and that pushed you this way. But anyways, I'll let you keep going with your story. I didn't actually know that about you, and that just makes me think that you're more of a wizard than you are. So
So 16, of course, that was like pretty defeating for me, like on a lot of levels, because like just you're wanting to drive and go on dates, and it's like, oh crap, I gotta fix some stuff on me first. So I start looking online and I just think like, you know what? I grew up watching a lot of like pro wrestlers and Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and Sylvester Stallone. Like I can almost line for line recite Rocky 3. Like that is my favorite movie of all time. So I was like, these bodybuilders know something. Let me try to pick their minds. So I went on the old bodybuilding.com and I'm going to date myself a little bit. This is 2005. So I go online and I keep seeing this one guy that he's prepping for his first bodybuilding show. And at the time he was being coached by Lane Norton, Dr. Lane Norton, Team Bio Lane, is more what he's known for now. And this guy being prepped by Lane, his name is Paul. And I just happened to send him a message and I'm like, hey man, I'm just kind of getting started and I see like you're doing all this cool stuff and it's not just chicken, broccoli, and rice like everyone else is doing to see crazy results. He was like, yeah, man, it's this flexible dieting, it's tracking your macros. Like he took the time to message just a stupid 16-year-old kid back. And that was kind of what led me into, okay, if I can have steak, like I'm a red meat guy. So if I can have steak and I can fit in the protein and the fats, then that's within my budget. And I tie tracking macros back to finances all the time. So I always say like it's your daily budget of protein, carbs, and fats, and you want to zero that budget out or as close to it as you can. So that worked for me versus like the chicken, rice, and broccoli or anything super extreme. I was able to stick with it. So like if my parents were ordering pizza because it was Friday night, luckily, thanks to the internet, I was able to figure out, well, what are the protein, carbs, and fats for having a slice of cheese pizza, start learning, oh, wait a minute, there's a lot of carbs and sugar and calories in the Mountain Dew that I'm drinking every day. Let's try a 0-calorie version. So that was what got me started on it. And I started taking anatomy and physiology classes in high school. I took a college biology course in high school, was so excited about it actually that I graduated high school early because I was just pumped to get into college, start pursuing exercise science as a degree. And that was what I did. I went to school, got certified as a personal trainer while I was working through college. And that was the start of my career. Now, by that point, I had lost over 100 pounds. I was still very active in powerlifting. I started to also venture into boxing and martial arts and just, at 19, 20, 21, like it's a lot going on for me all at once, like very physically active. Plus I was doing something that I'm just like super passionate about. That was where a lot of it was just booming and everything, right? So about that time, around 2008, 2009, of course, big recession hits. And it's right at the same time that my dad was diagnosed with cancer. So I had to take over his company, run the day-to-day operations while he was going through that. Fortunately, he beat everything. All is good.
good.
Over a decade cancer-free for him. And once that was really solid, I was like, man, I know this is the safe thing to just do the family business. It's been around for almost 20 years at this point. And I was like, man, I know it's a safe move, but I miss being more involved as a personal trainer. I miss being more involved. So I was talking to one of my friends at the gym who was also a personal trainer, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm working with this guy named Paul." And I'm like, well, "Can you show me a picture of him?" So she shows me a picture, and I'm like, that's the guy that got me started on my journey. So here
That's
it
the
is,
guy.
like all these years later, and I'm like, can I get his email address? So I reached out to Paul, see if he was taking on clients. The whole concept of online coaching was still very new then.
Sure.
And I was like, hey, if you're taking on clients, like I'd love to work with you. I don't know if you remember, I doubt you do, but you helped me out on bodybuilding.com, just messaging a stupid 16-year-old kid back, became his client for a couple of years. And then whenever Pro Physique was expanding, they were ready to take on another male coach besides Steven and Tyler, not Steven Tyler. I always have to separate the two names.
Sure.
Paul was like, hey, man, really want you to come on board. And the rest has been history. It's been such an awesome journey. I've been very fortunate to work with some truly incredible people, such as yourself. There's the bodybuilders and the models, and I've got a couple of pro wrestlers now. But I like knowing that moms and dads that are like, hey, I need something practical that fits into my life because I still have goals, because I still have a pulse. Like that's the
Yeah.
really kind of fun and exciting stuff for me. And that's still the bulk of who I work with. And that's what I absolutely love, is just going, all right, you've got 2 days to lift or 3 days to lift, whatever. You're not trying to be Ronnie Coleman. You're not trying to be Daraja Hill. You're not trying to be like a Olympia level bodybuilder. You want to look good by the pool, or you want to look good at the beach, or you just want to get healthier. Like I work with, my youngest client right now is 16 years old, high school athlete. My oldest client is 87. So that's the broad spectrum that I just love working with anyone.
So let's actually touch on that real quick, because when I was watching Paul on YouTube, and then seeing that he works with bodybuilders and people that are getting on stage with fitness competitions, I had that aha moment that I think you did when you were at 16. It was like, I go, everything else I've been trying hasn't really been working, but what if these people know what they're doing with the nutrition and getting somebody in shape? What if I just looked at what they do, and maybe that could help me out? So you guys are helping people. They may be scared to come to Pro Physique because they may think you guys are nothing but bodybuilding prep for a fitness competition. And little do they know that there's people like me who are like, hey, look, I just want to look really ripped when I take that shirt off. And they go, hey, look at the nerdy fintech finance guy. I'm
Yep.
anything but a nerd, by the way, but I'm just saying, look at this entrepreneur dude, taking his shirt off at the pool. That's pretty impressive that he can do that at his home. That's the type of client I think you guys are thriving with right now. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the bulk of Pro Physique's clients are, people that they have a regular office job, 9 to 5. They've got kids, or it's somebody young and in school and getting established in their career. Yeah, like there's the bodybuilders, of course. Like I just mentioned, Daraja, and I've got to stop calling her Hill because she just got married. But like Daraja is a top level Olympia bodybuilder who's also one of the coaches at Pro Physique. We've got a couple of IFBB pro coaches as well, like Evan Wells, who's a former University of Georgia Bulldog wide receiver. So like we've got those, and yeah, that's what a lot of people initially get drawn into, is the bodybuilder, because it's like, okay, well, what do bodybuilders do? They put on muscle, they have more muscle than the average person, and they also have a lot less body fat than the average person. Most people want to do one of those two things, or they want to be really strong, which still bodybuilders are very strong individuals. And that was exactly the same thing. That's what led me to bodybuilding.com, was like, these guys have low amounts of body fat, high amount of muscle. Heck yeah, that's what I want to look like. So let's
Right.
see, doing something right.
Well, now it's just get me into Marvel character body shape, which is your task with me. Because let's jump into, well, before I jump into something else, I wrote down, you have to see a lot of people in their underwear, don't you? And
Yes.
I was seeing if that was one of the reasons you got into what you're doing, or if that's just like a happy by. And by the way, I'm not saying happy byproduct, because you've seen me in my underwear, and that's not a beautiful thing. So
I mean, if somebody's willing to see people in their underwear, I'll tell you this: become a professional photographer. That
yeah,
is literally the bulk of what you're going to probably be doing. But yeah, I see all types of people from every walk of life, and it's always incredible to see somebody can go from either extreme end of the spectrum, right? Where The heaviest person that I've worked with was over 700 pounds, and to have seen him lose 400 pounds while we're working together. And this gentleman was
Wow.
6'9", 6'10". So 300 pounds on that frame is not the same as 300 pounds on my 5'8" frame. Or I've worked with, there was a guy that came to me, young guy, struggled with his weight, but from the opposite end his entire life, 5'10", barely 110 pounds, like super skinny. And it's like, hey, you've got just as much going on. Like whenever I talk to anyone on either end of the spectrum, it's the exact same thing of just like, I want to be a little bit healthier, and I want to like the way that I look, and I want to like the way that I feel and the way that I perform and all of that stuff. And it's, even though they're at opposite ends of the spectrum, they have the same goals. And
Yeah.
that's what's cool to me, is to see, like, with determination, with enough hard work, what can truly be possible. And a lot of people are just really quick to jump to the thing of like, oh well, they're all on steroids or whatever. And it's like, hard work will get you very, very, very far. And like, I'm not a proponent for taking steroids. I think that health is the champion above everything else. Because like, I want to be 80 years old and still doing pull-ups.
Sure.
I want to have that grandpa or great grandpa flex by that age on everyone else. For me, it's just cool to see, like, just hard work, determination can really just put a lot of naysayers to just get them to shut up about things. Because I had people, whenever I was over 300 pounds, saying like, why are you bothering with this? Everyone puts the weight back on. And I'm like, well, let's see here. I'm 34 years old now. So I've gone the majority of my life having kept off 100 pounds. That is not something that most people do, but it's something that easily can be done with just put in the work and show up.
That actually can go into this next topic, because it brings me back to why, I reached out to you in one of the first places. And I got to the point where I don't like to buy the next pant size up. I refuse. Even if I'm down to one pair of jeans that I got to wear over and over again. And my wife knows it. She's like, you've worn that pair of jeans every day this week. I'm like, yeah, I'm not buying another pair. I will go back I have plenty in the drawer that I'll get back into. So the relapse is hard, especially if you think you're still doing it. And then the tracking is a little difficult. What are some things people can do, though, not to relapse and to maintain fitness, once, so that way they don't have to put on that extra 40, 50 pounds that they worked. And it's time, by the way. Like, you guys have taught me this more than anything else. Paul uses that thing of a toilet paper roll or paper towel,
yeah,
that it then comes off like that in layers. And that really resonated with me. And it's not that there's a quick fix of, hey, 30 days, I'm going to drop 30 pounds. You can, but it's unhealthy. Mm-hmm. So what are things people could do to maintain health and not rebound, like you said? Because you never did. I mean, you're still, really fit.
So that is a really awesome question that most people never even think to ask before starting any type of a fitness journey, especially, the majority of people reaching out are seeking some kind of fat loss / weight loss. And what I always like to start off with, because I'm a numbers driven person, like, if you tell me, I'm like Han Solo, never tell me the odds. All right. So I like letting people know, like, hey, look, before we even start this journey, before we take this first step, here are the facts. So I've been a part of a long ongoing study for the National Weight Control Registry, where what they do is they send out a survey once a year to just ask people that it's documented, hey, you've lost more than, I think the qualification is now 20% of your initial starting weight. And if you've kept it off, what are you currently doing? Have you still kept the weight off? So I'm like 10 years into that now. What's cool is that they share the survey results with people. And for men are statistically actually the least likely people to keep weight off.
I never knew that, actually. That's interesting. So, now it makes sense to me, but
well, because women have diet culture pushed onto them from such a younger age, and women become, women develop faster than men. So,
well, let me ask you this, Phil. Sorry to cut you off, but do you also think that in society, women obviously have to look a certain way, and guys, it's like almost it's okay for us to have the beer gut, but yet the arms, like, society wise, guys are okay to be a little out of shape. We're kind of almost expected to be out of shape. if we're an everyday dad, right?
Right. Like the whole dad bod thing, like
Yeah.
that started what, like 5, 6 years ago, where it was like, do you want a dad bod or
No,
a
it's
fit
about 10 years
bod?
ago now, Phil. Sorry,
Then
we're
okay. Yeah, time flies once you've got toddlers. So I
yeah.
start to lose track of stuff. Like I still expect The Office to have new episodes on, but whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So yeah, women tend to have a lot more of like diet culture and image, and they become a little bit more aware at a younger age than what boys typically will. So that's a big contributing factor, I believe, for why women are a little bit more successful. Now, men, it's a less than 3% success rate for 5 years, and it's about a 1% success rate for 10 years. Women, the numbers are approximately doubled. So for 5 years, it's typically about 8 to 9% that most women that of the women that will have kept off more than 20% of their initial starting weight.
Oof.
And at the 10-year mark, it's about 4%. So it's really interesting to see, like, overall, it's still like a low long-term success rate. But what's cool, and this is where it becomes more than just, well, what's the percentage, what's the likelihood? It's they're able to determine what are the habits, and the habits are all consistently the same thing. Every person that has these success rates, they roughly do the same things of they still engage in regular exercise. They still are aware of their food. There may be, like, I don't have a food scale that I use every single day when I'm not in a dieting phase. And I'll go through phases in just a minute. But most people are still sticking with having some type of high protein, higher than the normal person protein for their daily diet. Most people that are successful with this long term do eat 4 to 5 servings of fruits and veggies daily. Most people that are successful are drinking water. Like you've seen me grab my cup several times. So there's habits. There you go. Stay hydrated, man. Like there's habits that they're across the board what people are doing to remain successful long term. And now whenever you start to break it down, and like what I like doing, going full, because I am a nerd. I am a nerd's nerd. I've got the Boba Fett tattoo to prove it. I can sing songs about the Krebs cycle. Like this is my jam. I like looking into, all right, well, this is what people are successful with who come from that background of losing a substantial amount of body fat. What do people in areas where there's not really high occurrences of obesity, what do they tend to do? So we look into these are called blue zones, where it's just normal. People live into their 90s. Like if somebody doesn't make it to 90, it's like, what they do? Get hit by a bus or something? Like something crazy happened for them to not make 90. And they're active, they eat a healthy diet, they stay hydrated, and they get in a lot of steps. They take care of themselves. So once you realize, like, well, that's really what a lot of the longevity is about, is just finding really a lifestyle where you're able to do these things. And that's what I pride myself on as a coach for my lifestyle clients is, hey, no matter if you're the 16-year-old kid that has no idea about a macronutrient, or if you're the 40-year-old who's tried every diet under the sun and nothing has worked a long time, I'm going to meet you where you're at, and I'm going to show you this is what we can do. These are the habits we need to develop, but how do we fit them into your life? So like you've got a baby at home. Like gone are the days where like you could put 2 hours into the gym 6 days a week. Like that is a tall order for any parent with a little kid. But we could probably get in 3 whole body workouts per week, doing some resistance training, promoting muscle protein synthesis by having a higher protein diet. Because even with you being vegetarian, like you're able to execute and hit a higher protein diet than the average American. And just getting into these habits of good health practices and making it fit in and just kind of seem second nature. Like for me right now, whenever I'm in a maintenance phase, my nutrition is as mundane to me as brushing my teeth. I don't get out of bed every day going, yes, I get to brush my teeth, but I also just wake up and know like, hey, I'm going to eat something kind of similar for breakfast to what I do the other 3-4 months of a maintenance phase. I'm going to eat the similar thing for lunch. Like it's a protein source, usually a big salad, maybe a couple of like high fiber tortillas. Like that's my normal lunch. Dinner, it's probably some small serving of whatever the kids are having, some larger serving of veggies, and a protein source. Like that's how I maintain. That is the basics of it. And just learning like a little treat here or there, like a slice of cake never made anyone fat. Now, a slice of cake every day, that's a whole different topic. Okay. But working in like the little stuff, really making it so that you can still enjoy your anniversary, you can still enjoy a vacation. Like we worked together while you were on some trips, and it was just, let's have some general health practices, like let's have protein at every meal, let's go for a walk, let's have some fruit, have some veggies, and
Yep.
whenever we get back home, we get back into the groove of things.
Yeah, actually, so I took full advantage of my wife being pregnant, and she was in this ice cream phase, and that's my kryptonite. And I was having ice cream almost every day for 3 months. And I think that's what jump-started my relapse. So there was that. A couple things that I learned along the way with you too in doing this was actually planning out my meals for like the week, and I think I've heard Paul say this on a different podcast as well, that those that don't go into relapse, they still do some type of planning, or kind of like when you said it, like you kind of have this foundation of what you're going to eat kind of throughout the day. I've recently gotten back into that, knowing like, hey, this is the same breakfast, and I can eat the same breakfast every day. I love my egg whites on toast with a little bit of fat-free cheese that you turn me on to. So
That's a game changer, isn't it? It just sneaks on 9 more grams of protein.
yeah, and then well, I can get into all that other stuff, but food prep. I'm wondering, when is Pro Physique gonna come out with, there's like, we have HelloFresh. My wife loves HelloFresh. I have this hate of HelloFresh because it doesn't tell me any of the nutritional value of the meal whatsoever. I have to try to calculate it out. So that's a pain in my butt. But when are you guys going to come out with a food plan that you can just send your clients with their macros? So those of us like me who are willing to pay for the extra premium service, will pay for it just so I don't have to think about it, and I can get it cooked for me.
Oh man, like a meals to order to hit your macros.
Yeah,
Yeah.
HelloFresh is great because they keep it interesting, and I don't have to think about what we're going to prep. We just make it, we eat it together. And my wife and I love it because, like, we've actually figured out that you save money because now we're not going to the grocery store buying all the ingredients, and then you have all these leftover ingredients. Like it's this perfect amount. So my ask of Pro Physique and you guys is come up with the same service. And then if I need to be your test, let's do that, so food prep. The other thing I wanted to bring up too, as we were talking about this, I wanted to bring this up on my end because, again, I think about finances and being financially sound, but also I think why people don't work with coaches in fitness. It's like you see the people at the gym, and maybe you just kind of like you're intimidated, by them. But what you're doing is completely different. You're doing a lot of online coaching. I took it as, I'm going to pay for this, and I'm going to buy some protein supplements, and I'm going to buy some other supplements, and I can't afford not to do it because this is my longevity of health. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it that way, and you start thinking about buying food that's good for you, and like it's worth the money you're going to put into it. So from like, I think there's a barrier of entry. One, there's like, I have to spend this money on a coach. It might be $100, $200 to have somebody tell me what to do. I can find it online for free. Well, it's BS because you're not, if you put money into something, you're going to be actually doing it, and it's an investment into your fitness, right?
Right. Because like there is absolutely that extra motivating factor of like, hey, if you're paying a coach, you're now putting your money, you're investing it into you, which is always like the smartest thing that you can do. Obviously, like metaphorically speaking, the smartest thing you can do is invest in yourself, believe in yourself. And whenever you have the monetary aspect as well of, I'm paying this person because I connected with them, they're an expert in their field, they have the background, they have the pedigree, they have the credentials, the proven track record of success, you now know, like, all right, I'm paying them, I'm receiving their service. And if you choose to not execute, then you know that you're wasting your money at the end of the day. Like, I have had people sign up with me with the best of intentions, and every week it's, well, my kids had a soccer game All right, so bring a turkey sandwich to your kid's soccer game. Like there's a workaround, there's a solution. Well, the problem is that the bread ends up being soggy. Okay, separate out the bread. Like people will find
Those are
any
excuses, right?
yeah, like that's the difference. Is like your coach is able to help you out to identify and learn more about yourself, and when and where do you find excuses. But whenever you've got that coach and you go, all right, I'm paying this person, I want to get the results, because my objective, and not every coach is this way, unfortunately it's not really a well-regulated industry for coaches. My objective isn't to keep someone for the next 40 years of their life. I want somebody to work with me to learn about themselves, learn that everything is a tool. Calorie deficit, cardio, resistance training, supplements, they're all tools. And just like a hammer is a great tool for hanging a picture whenever I need to put a nail in the wall, it's the worst tool I could have if I'm changing the spark plugs on my Jeep. Like,
Right.
I don't need a hammer for that job. So I want to make sure that people understand each tool has its purpose. And that's part of whenever you're paying a coach, you're paying for that knowledge of somebody that has either gone to school or they've gotten their certifications, they've worked with people, they've cut through the fluff. Because the other really confusing part about the fitness industry is I can find studies that the end results will be completely contradictory. I can find studies that show a low carb, high fat, ketogenic carnivore diet is going to be optimal for fat loss. Well, I can also find studies that show the exact opposite, that a high carbohydrate, low fat diet is more optimal for fat loss. I can find studies that show a high protein diet is most optimal for fat loss. There's all these different conflicting reports. And then
You can drink all the wine you want and still lose weight in some studies, right?
right. Like there's studies that actually say, like, yeah, you can have up to, I think one was like 6 ounces of whiskey a day.
Well,
And
so
I was like,
I knew some people in the beverage business. That's one of my backgrounds, and I knew people at Coca-Cola that would have to travel up to the state capitol to talk to senators to make sure they approve a bill that says that having a Coke a day is actually good for kids. And I go, you can't convince me that that is anywhere good for kids to have a, but that's, the studies sometimes are found, if you look and see who's actually funding the study,
mm-hmm.
yeah, which I think Coca-Cola actually got in trouble for, and like McDonald's has gotten in trouble for in the past. Like they put out these studies, oh, you can eat a burger and fries. It's like, well, maybe you can, but every single day,
Right.
every meal may not be the best option for your diet, right?
Right. And people, but again, people can look at the documentary Super Size Me and go, see, look, McDonald's, totally. Or like there was the girl with Taco Bell that lost weight. Like there's a lot of different options. And it's ironic. Like, I don't know if you're a Star Wars person or not, but like
Way more than Star Trek. And my father-in-law will hate me for saying that because
so I'm wearing a Mandalorian shirt. So like so many fitness people just want you to think like there's one path. This is the way. And it's like, well, no, someone who's actually educated and has a background on nutrition and exercise and working with people, keeping someone's mind in the game. They know that there's more than just one route for success.
yeah,
And that's what a lot of what I have to do, because most people come to me and they do know something, or they know just enough to be dangerous to themselves. And what I've got to teach them sometimes is, hey, you've got too many chefs in the kitchen right now. You're pulling information from this person on YouTube. You're pulling information from this doctor on a TV show. You're pulling information from this Facebook group, from this Reddit page. Stop. You've got too many voices going on and they're all conflicting with each other. Let's not worry about what one source says is the most optimal thing, because most optimal to next most optimal, what's the difference? Are we talking 99% results versus 98%? Well, what's that small difference really whenever we think about the big picture? If someone being 90% of the way to what's most optimal according to research and my practices as a coach, if that's what they're able to stick with 100% of the time, is being 90% compliant or doing 90% of the things, I'd rather them do that, because otherwise you're probably all or nothing and you're 50-50. Like half the time you're 100%, half the time you're 0%. So that's a lot of hiring a coach, is learning about yourself and what's going to work long-term, and also why does it work long-term. So like I tell people, when you're working with me, there's typically 4 phases of it, and it's kind of like seasons of the year. As much as my wife would love for it to be fall all year round, so she can just have her Uggs on all year and it's pumpkin spice and apple cider, everything. We can't live in fall because now there's no time for growth. There's no time for summer. There's no time for the rest of the cycles of the year. So like I'll work with someone through a fat loss phase, right? And that is usually where we're starting off at. Unless they've got a long history of dieting, then we might start with the reverse diet phase, but we're typically dieting down and then we're going to slowly walk calories up. Because what a lot of people don't understand is that your metabolism isn't just a static number. Your metabolism can actually and does adapt based on how much muscle do you have, how much body fat do you have, how active are you. So if you suddenly take a desk job and now you don't adjust anything, like, yeah, you're going to put on a bunch of body fat if you were previously working like a manual labor job or something. But as you lose body fat, like that's another component. You've now lost 20 pounds. Well, you have 20 less pounds of mass to be moving when you take a step, stand up from a chair, bend over to tie your shoes. You have 20 less pounds on you. Doesn't take as much calorie demand for your body to move. So now your metabolism has probably come down a little bit. So we diet down, we lose this body fat, and then we've got to get to a new level of maintenance calories. So someone initially might have been maintaining their weight previously on 3,000 calories a day. Well, their new maintenance calories might be 2,800 calories. If they went back to 3,000, they'd be in a 200 calorie a day surplus. Eventually, they're going to put their weight back on. So it's diet down, reverse diet, and then hold. And we do a maintenance phase. Some people want to do the building phase as well. Some people, after they lose body fat, they go, man, I thought that'd be a little bit more muscular than this. Like, where's my shoulders? Where's my chest? You know, for women, where's my glutes? Okay, well, let's build muscle, and then we'll possibly do another cutting phase. Maintenance, though, is where I want to get most people to. Whether it's we've got to do 2 approaches to fat loss, 2 approaches to building muscle, like whatever that looks like. Maintenance is what I ultimately want to get people to, where they've achieved their results, they've learned about their body, they've got really good habits in place, and what they're doing is practical and achievable. It might be a matter of, you know what, maybe we are doing kind of what my playbook is for myself of I batch cook a whole bunch of my protein, and I do a lot of like protein prepping on Sunday. The vacuum sealer, besides the coffee maker, is the most used appliance in my house. So like I vacuum seal my stuff so that it stays fresh. You know, I freeze what I'm not going to eat in the next couple of days, and I just pull it out. It makes life easier because I set myself up for success by planning ahead. Where's my hour for protein prep on Sunday? And keeping things fairly accessible. Like the nice thing is my wife has a green thumb, so we grow our own vegetables. You know, like right now we've got a whole bunch of greens, we've got a bunch of green beans, we've got a bunch of broccoli, tomatoes. Like that's going to be my veggies, and I literally just have to walk outside and pick them, wash them, done. So it's making something practical and achievable for yourself. And just once you get to maintenance, that's where the fun can be of, all right, Saturday comes around. I like to, you know, make breakfast for the kids. Cool. I know that I'm probably making pancakes because it's my daughter's favorite thing. Make some pancakes in the morning, do some eggs, probably toss in some egg whites for me just to get a little more protein. The rest of the day is just kind of normal. Or I might do a steak on the grill because it's Saturday and my wife wants a steak. Cool. That is the joy of reaching that maintenance level where you truly understand the nutrition. I know it's a hot word right now, it's a buzzword, but you understand the balance of your fitness goals and also having a social life.
Yeah. We only have maybe like another 7 minutes here, but one thing, and I'm debating whether to jump into this other topic, but just understanding that paying for your fitness, like you said, and understanding some of those cycles, you're not going to get that on your own. It's going back to the Frankenstein of all information. Happens in my world in finance all the time, where somebody comes in and they ask how you're going to put like a full financial plan together, and they start giving you all their biases because of all the different, articles they've read, videos they've seen, the different
Dave Ramsey says
financial gurus that are out there. Look, I say that there's a lot of great information, and that does help a lot of people, but it's not the end all be all solution for everybody. Mm-hmm. And it has to be customized for you. And I think that's like for me, with hiring you, it was the customization that I got. And, I'll use the word wizardry again, that you're noticing things that I just don't. I mean, things I don't know, obviously. And that's why, but also we don't have the time to do all the research that you've done. And you've put things in practice with hundreds of clients, and you have those around you at Pro Physique that have hundreds. I mean, you guys have thousands, if not, maybe tens of thousands with Paul at this point. So you have all this data at your fingertips. You have the case studies. You've gone through each of the scenarios. It's kind of like me with in finance. I've done that. So for somebody to come in and say, if I were to come in and say, hey, I just want to do keto and I only want to run, once a week, and I only want to lift once a week, by the way, and make me look like Captain America, that's probably not going to fly, right? Even though I do want you to get the physicality, not of Thor, that's too big for me, but like Captain America.
So Chris Evans, not Chris Hemsworth. I got you.
Yeah. The Chris's that I'm going for, right? But I want to be Joe Gissy. Or, I can use there was a picture of, I saw this on Joe Rogan. It was Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. And I'm like, you're taking the two biggest billionaires of the world that own tech companies. Here's the guy that's like pasty and doesn't work out. And here's the guy that's clearly tanning and working out and hanging out on yachts. I want that guy. I want to be that guy here, right? Last thing, actually, I will pivot to this because I thought this was really interesting. Support system. You guys do a lot of 90-day challenges. And I started with you prior to the 90-day challenge. Primarily because I was like, I can't wait. Like, that's 2 months away. We got to get going now. Although I love competitions, but the circle of influence around you with like family and stuff, for me, it's difficult. Like, my family loves to eat unhealthy. And when I'm doing something, if it's not a 90-day challenge, like when I was in the 90-day challenge, it was easy. I go, I'm in a 90-day challenge. I can't eat that, or I'm not going to have the ice cream. Like, they would even come home and be like, I want to get you ice cream. You deserve it. You're working so hard. And it's like, no, I'm in a challenge. But when I'm not in the challenge, it is super difficult. So what are things that you've noticed or people have said to help keep that little devil off the shoulder saying, eat this cookie, eat this ice cream, you deserve it?
Oh yeah. So that is actually a big lesson that I teach a lot of people is delaying instant gratification. Like, look, the ice cream's not going anywhere. Ben and Jerry's is not about to go out.
In my head, it is. If I don't eat it and it's in my freezer, it needs to go.
Like, that's a lot of what people will tell me is like, man, like if I see it in my freezer though, like I'm going to grab it. So that might sometimes just be the conversation of like, hey, maybe what we're doing is just, I never want somebody to develop food fear from working with me. Like, no food is inherently evil. If I put Ben and Jerry's under a microscope in a lab, like, I'm not about to see little molecules running around with devil horns and pitchforks going, haha, I'm going to make everyone fat. Like,
right.
Food isn't inherently evil. It's just highly palatable. It is calorie dense. We can take a couple of approaches. Either we start having the discipline to look at the nutrition label and we see, okay, a serving of ice cream is actually like very, very sad whenever you actually see like 100 grams weighed out on a scale in a bowl. But some people go, you know what? I just have that little itch. I can factor in 10 grams of fat. I can factor in 19 grams of carbs and a gram of protein, and I can stop at one serving. Some people, that is what we end up doing. Or they buy some, you can buy freezer-friendly plastic bowls that you can now get that, as soon as you get that pint of Ben & Jerry's home, put it on the food scale and just weigh out a serving, put it into your storage containers, and now you've got one serving already weighed out, and that's what you're sticking in the freezer. The pint never goes in.
You didn't tell me that hack before, so I think you were holding on to me.
But now, like, you're developing that discipline of just sticking to one serving, and it's already pre-weighed, pre-proportioned, so you can plan ahead for like, all right, I'm going to reward myself, and I'm going to have the serving of ice cream on Wednesdays. Maybe Wednesday's your really busy day, and you just need that mental break. Cool, it's already pre-weighed out. You can grab it and forget about it, because now if you're wanting more, you're having to go through the active act of getting up, going to the refrigerator, and that entire time you're getting opportunity after opportunity to go, I need to stop, and I need to remember what my goals are, and I need to remember that the Ben & Jerry's isn't going out of business. It's going to be here in 90 days. It's going to be here in 75 days. It'll be here in 900 days. Other people need to just find like a macro-friendly alternative recipe. Like, I've got recipes on my Instagram page. One's like a McFlurry equivalent. You want a little bit thicker, put a little bit more xanthan gum. Like, that's how you can find something to just scratch the itch. Or if we need to, we just say, you know what, maybe for the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, we're leaving it out. Or maybe we only work it in like once a month, having, instead of one serving, we have 2 servings, but it's once a month. So it's starting to limit it and start to see like, hey, this isn't one serving, two servings isn't preventing me from my goals. But now you start to see like, hey, I need to truly treat this as a treat. I need to just see it as a fuel. And when is it the right time to use this or not use this?
Hey man, well, now that I know that hack, I'm going to be using it on our next 90 days together. But on that note, let's go ahead and end it here. How can people get in contact with you? I mean, I'll obviously leave a description down below for people. I know you're doing a podcast. What are all the ways that you can connect, watch Phil?
If you need to get your fill of Coach Phil, probably the best place that you can go just to get some resources and see some of the content that I like to put out there for free would be on Instagram. And it is simply Pirtle Coaching. It's my last name, Pirtle, and what I do, coaching. So Pirtle. You can also go to prophysique.com. You can read about me. You can read about any of our other coaches. You can learn more about our 90-day challenge. We do 2 of them a year. We have another one coming up this fall of 2023. So you can head over there. I am also the director for the transformation challenges, so I run those entirely. Anyone has any questions on any of that stuff, you can also send me an email. It's simply Phil, Phil, at prophysique.com.
Sweet. By the way, I just got on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff again.
All the socials.
I will be joining you on that. YouTube and LinkedIn were my jam for the longest time. And I wrote a whole story about why I decided to join Facebook. It's all needed part of this world that we're in now. I'm going to hit stop right now, Phil. I appreciate your time. This will go on my YouTube channel. I'll give you the footage. You guys can use it however you want. But man, it's always great catching up. Better to catch you up. This is a free hour. I don't have to pay you for it. I should just do this with lawyers, moving forward. I would save so much more money. But yeah, I appreciate the time, Phil. And good catching up.
Well, thank you for having me.